Ladies and gentlemen, this RedGaming.com video. Sources close to Warner Brothers knew that Batman Arkham Knight on the PC would be a total mess. And they have known this for months, apparently. And the reason behind this? Well, supposedly it's because of the consoles, the next generation consoles. And they said that it was very hard to get the title to work on consoles, but we'll go into that in just a moment. So, let's start out with the basics. We all know that at the moment Arkham Knight has been pulled from Steam. Now the reason that many can probably assume, aside from the fact that Warner Brothers were getting roasted over the coals for the quality of the port, is it was actually costing them money thanks to Steam refunds. In other words, you bought the game for your regional equivalent, let's just for the sake of argument say £35, and you would buy the game, you would play it, you would realise, holy crap, I'm running like an SLI, 980 Ti, and I'm still getting massive frame rate drops. Forget this crap, Steam offers refunds now, I'm just going to go ahead and go for that refund. Now, previously, of course, you couldn't really get a refund from Steam, it was extremely difficult, it was like pulling teeth. But now, you've got this no quibble money back guarantee. But Steam are still going to take their pound of flesh from Warner Brothers, so it's actually costing Warner Brothers every time that you went ahead with this refund policy. It's basically costing the developers money. A source close to Warner Brothers, a quality assurance tester, this is one of the sources, said, I will say it's pretty rich for Warner Brothers to act like they had no idea the game was in such a horrible state. It's been like this for months, and all the problems we see now were exactly the same, unchanged almost a year ago. Now, this QA tester did not want their identity to be revealed. They don't want to say, it's Tom Jones, because let's face it, if they did, they would get a black mark against them in the games industry, and it would be very, very, very difficult for them to probably work with other studios, because certain things, obviously, studios just don't want you to know, whether it's for nefarious reasons or whether it's just because they just, well, want to keep it on the down low. Another tester said, and I quote, getting it to work on consoles was impossible for months. That's part of why the game got delayed so many times. They were totally unprepared for how hard it was to work on the next generation systems. And another one who didn't work with the QA team said that they were close to the game's production, and they said this lined up closely with what they'd seen and heard throughout the game's development. In various QA meetings, they were told that the consoles were not as easy to work with as Rocksteady suspected, and the testers should focus the time on finding console bugs. This particular team was made up of 100 people, with about 10% focus for the PC version, and we reported literally thousands of bugs that were specific to the PC version, related to frame rate, all sorts of, and I quote, fucked up texture issues. The Batmobile in particular always fucked up things for the PC. That's actually true. If you've ever played the PC iteration of the game, I actually get pretty stable frame rates. I've tried it on a couple of different machines. I'm running on an i7 with a couple of different systems. I've tried with an NVIDIA card, a high-end NVIDIA card, and I've also tried with a high-end AMD card. Yup, same issues. Basically, the Batmobile sections are perfect. Sorry, it's great until the Batmobile sections, and then it chugs like an asthmatic slug. Same thing on an FX rig as well. We're running an FX 8350, which of course we reviewed. I've tried that with a couple of different graphics cards, including the recently released R9 390, which of course has a ridiculous amount of memory. Same problems. Anyway, testing a game this big is very different from linear or small games, said the source. You usually go on a mission, chapter or an area of the mission, pick up what yourself, and just go to the town. You bug everything you see. We had some testers bugging more than 100 bugs a day. Developers would fix what they could, but they were only juggling with actually finishing the game that was insanely slow. Only when the game was done and no features had to be built could they actually buckle down. And once this happened, they also restrict you or you can't bug to ensure that they can catch up. A second source also said that Warner Brothers' internal QA focused on bug checking specifically at 720p resolutions. 720p? Are you serious? So, Warner Brothers were utilising the game at 720p as their benchmark. 720p? Are you serious? back when the Xbox 360 was released, back like, you know, when Noah's Ark was probably being built, 720p was laughable on PCs then. That was like what you would run if you had a low-end GPU and you were like, oh shit, like, you know, Oblivion's come out and I'm waiting and I've got this like GPU that's basically held together with paper and string. GPUs, even on PC, at that point, 1080p really. Well, to be totally honest, it was usually 16:9 back then, if you want to be technical. So mostly it would have been like 1680 by 1050 at the very least, which is a considerable pixel improvement over 720p. Or more likely it would have been like 1920 by 1200, or possibly, if you're still running a CRT, something along the lines of 1600 by 1200. Something like that, you know. No one for years has been thinking 720p is a benchmark. It's not a benchmark at all. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, Shadow of Mordor from Warner Brothers, despite the review problems which I've mentioned before, and I don't want to drown on about again, the port came out pretty well, but then Techland Dying Light, it also pretty good, but Mortal Kombat, not so pretty good. It was pretty bad. There were some major problems with it. That's not to say the console versions were exactly perfect, but they were considerably better than the PC port. And this, to be honest, is a real shame because the PC versions of games recently have done pretty well at comparison port-wise. In other words, the ports are getting better, developers are pushing towards more the PC because the PC market is growing quite quickly. I feel there's multiple reasons behind that, if I'm totally honest. One is Steam, but there are others as well. So, the moral of the story, assuming this is true, and I'm not going to say it is, because I don't know, you know, I wasn't there. I wasn't there for the meeting, so I don't know how much, if any of this is true. But let's assume for the moment it is true. Why? Well, it seems to me like the next generation consoles were very difficult for them to develop on. I'm going to probably assume that this means that the level of visual fidelity in an open world setting was taxing for the next generation consoles. That simple. Very difficult. You know, we've been running Batman Arkham, and we've noticed that there are frame rate drops on the consoles. Quite bad, actually, in some cases. Not awful, but, you know, you can notice it chugging. And the game was delayed substantially several times over. That's a given. At times they said, well, they wanted, you know, to add more stuff and all this bollocks, but to be honest, I think it was probably performance and fine-tuning. At the end of the day, the consoles are what they are, and that's just kind of what it is. So what really we can take away from this is the console versions of the game just, they ate up a lot of development time. But the game, because when you're dealing with open world nature of, like, you know, large areas, I'm not going to go into a game development Q&A session here, but effectively speaking, let's say you're dealing with a massive area, a huge area. Your bottom line is, as you're going towards certain unique features of that map, like new textures or new lighting, that has to be loaded into resident memory. So as this stuff is loading, that's why, in my opinion, the Batmobile sections have that problem. Because as you're quickly moving through the map at much faster speeds than what Batman can do so on his regular, you know, using various grapple lines and stuff like that, or just simply gliding, you can notice the frame rate tank because things are just being swapped in and out and the engine just is having trouble keeping up. That's just kind of the problem. So I think it's been a twofold issue. Do I think that Warner Brothers will fix the problem? Yeah, I do. I do feel that they will fix it, and that's a good thing. I do feel that they've been reasonably responsible in how they've handled the problem. But this is inherently a massive problem. The game should not have been released as it was. I would have preferred if Warner Brothers had said, hey, you know what? Sorry guys, the PC port is not running how we expected it, how we envisaged it. We're just going to delay the game 2 months on the PC, and we're going to move all of our guys over to, you know, work on the port. We're really sorry, and we're going to give you a Batman skin for free, or something like that. You know, just anything. And I think people would be disappointed, but it would be like, okay, fair enough. If that's what... I think they would get more respect. It's just a kind of a crazy situation, to be totally honest with you. Anyway, I'm going to go because I frankly need to turn on the fan faster. I am dying in here in the UK. It is so hot. I don't just mean that in a, you know, I'm from the UK, I can't handle the heat. It is honestly really hot right now. It's that stifling, horrible heat where you're just crying for mercy. And when you go into the shade, you're so grateful. And then when you come out, you feel like your skin is being turned into bacon. It is that type of heat. It's really unpleasant. So, anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Now I've given you... Oh, actually, before I leave, I just wanted to also give out a little bit more information. We've also hit 19,000 subscribers, which is not many compared to some of the big channels, but for us, it's very happy times. So I just wanted to express an immense amount of gratitude to you all. I will be giving you all ice cream and cookies in a mental capacity right now. You know, you should be getting them some way or another. You know, I'm sure. Anyway, thanks very much on a serious note, once again, for all the support, all the love, all the shares, all the likes, all the comments, and everything else for that matter. But anyway, I'm going to get going, as I said, before I melt. So, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye for now.